back to my YT channel. This is again, I am a senior eternal voice. As I promised, we need to discuss the electric force between electrons and protons, but in my first segment of live streaming, I forgot that to do because, a lot of discussion was done on the gravitational force. Okay, so let's go back first for the formula for this, the basic formula of electric force between electrons and protons. Before that, we need to have a very basic definition of, not really definition, we need to identify what are electrons and protons, right? Because electric force between electrons and protons, something like that, okay? So we go to, gamay lang siya, okay? So electron, okay? Electron is revolving in the outermost shell of the nucleus. It has a charge which is negative. Okay, it has a mass of 9.109 times 10 to the negative 31 kilogram and was discovered by J.J. Thomson. Okay, that is electron. And electrons are the bases. That's why we have an electricity in our houses, in our schools, in our universities, in factories and plants, because it is the transfer and movement of electrons flow in a path to produce an electrical energy from chemical reactions and through electrolysis, something like that. Could either be a spontaneous chemical reaction, or could it be a non-spontaneous chemical reaction, or could either be using the galvanic cell or the voltaic cell in electrochemistry, something like that. So there must be a electrons flow for that, and the path is very important. And a basic example of the path is a wire. Okay, so that's electrons all about. Okay, and that is also the basis in the cell reduction, okay, cell oxidation, and the electrochemical cell, something like that, in obtaining the electromotive force or the potential. Okay, so it's very clear. And now we go to the protons. Protons are the basis for the isotopic properties of elements. Could either be non-metals or metals or elements, something like that. Okay, so isotopes, something. The protons, the number of protons is our identification for that. Where can we say that this element has another isotope, something like that? For example, for the very basic example in chemistry lecture, we have carbon. We have also carbon 12. We have carbon 13, something like that. So these are elements that have the same atomic number or the same number of protons but differ in their mass numbers. Okay, so the proton will be the basis for that also. The positive charge. Okay, something like that. Okay, so the positive charge normally exists in the anode, in the positive terminal. Okay, because what it means, the positive particles will go there, something like that. Okay, anode, positive terminal, something like that. Okay, the positively charged particles or the positively charged ions. Okay, because ions are both positive and negative. But in here, since we are saying proton, that is positively charged ions. And these are all about protons and electrons. We need to have an idea because that's our topic. The electric force between electrons and protons. At least we will know basic idea for that. And the protons discovered by James Chadwick. Okay, the mass of the proton is 1.67 times 10 to the negative 27 kilogram. Okay, something like that. Now we go now to the formula of this electric force. Okay, capital F. Oh my gosh. Capital F is equal to, another constant will be introduced here, guys. Okay, not the Newton gravitational force, but it is the Coulomb constant. Oh my gosh. So do not be confused with the Faraday constant and the Coulomb constant and the electric charge constant. I may explain a little bit. Okay? So the Faraday constant, guys, it's not a Coulomb constant. Okay? Only the unit involves Coulomb in it. Okay? So Faraday constant is equal to 96,485 Coulomb per mole electron. there's a column unit, okay, but that is not a column constant. Okay, that's Faraday. The column constant is another thing. Okay, like, and the column also, one column, right? In electric charge, one column. This is also different because it's referring to electric charge. But there's also column. One column is equal to 1602 times 10 to the negative 19. Something like that. Electric charge, column siya. Okay? So, if the question in the future examination will say, will ask, what is the value of an electric charge? Ganun lang siya ka-simply. Why there's no choices. Okay, your answer will be 1.602 times 10 to the negative 19 column. Now, you will be confused because there's a unit column and you will say this is the column constant. It's not. That is an electric charge constant, but the unit is in column. Okay? So sometimes makalibog siya. Okay? But the column constant here in the electric force between electrons and protons is the Kc, in which the unit is somewhat complicated na siya, a little bit, because it involves three quantities. This is Kc. This is not Kc conception. Okay? Ang jowa ni Piolo Pascual before. This is not Kc, an actress. That this is Kz, column constant. Okay? So Kz is equal to 8.99. Okay? Memorize din siya guys kay mo ginag premium magbalik-balik. Okay? So 8.99, okay, times 10 to the 9, okay, like that. Newton, okay? Newton meter squared second squared. Okay, you should also remember that there's also Newton, the same as the gravitational force constant, the Newton gravitational force constant, nasa siya N. So, you have a little bit idea, there's a Newton, something like that. Okay, but this is a little bit different because the exponent is positive. Okay, so 8.99 times 10 to the 9. So, it's very easy also to remember because the exponent is positive. The same with the Avogadro number. So, this is not negative. So, you can remember easily. Okay, and aside from that also, 8.99 times 10 to the 9, ang point niya, mausa niyang exponent. Okay, 8.99. So, 0.9. So, the 9 there will be your exponent. So, you can memorize completely and inject that in your brain cells. Okay, 8.99 times 10 to the 9 Newton meter squared c squared. Now the column is still there in the denominator. C stands for the column. So, ang coulomb starting siya per me. So, just like an actress and an actor always, the column. C-O-U-L-O-M-B, which is the column discovered by Mr. Coulomb, of course. Okay. So, electric force between electrons and protons like that is equals to Kc. Okay. Oh my gosh, use my pencil pen. Oh my gosh. Nahurot akong pencil pen, guys. Kc. Uy, kaloka. Saan ba ito? Uy, fairness. Green. Kc is equals to capital Q. Okay, then Q, small q. Kani makalibog sa siya gamay guys. Okay, R raised to the power 2. Okay. So you will say also, Sir Sotero, what is the capital Q and small letter Q? Why nagtupad siya? Okay. Kaloka. Okay. So they will be like this. Okay. What's that capital Q all about? This is not heat energy. This is not Q, the same as in the thermodynamics. This is electric charge also. I put big Q, just the same with the other references I researched, okay? Because this is different. Okay, this is Q1 and Q2. Okay, something like that. The charge of another particle and the charge also with another particle, something like that. Okay, that's why Q1 and Q2, or else pareho lang siya, ma-raise na siya sa 2. Okay, so since that is not raised to the power 2, meaning that is another value. For example, it is electric charge of an electron. The other also is the proton. Okay, that's why it is Q times Q, or you can say that also as Kc Q1 times Q2 over R squared. Meaning to say, this Q in the numerator are the particles involved, something like that. If that is electron, then use also 1.6 times 10 to the negative 19, and then kung electron na ang gisgutan, okay, then raise it to the power 2. Okay, something like that. If there's a proton, then multiply with another charge, something like that. Okay, you get the point? Something like that. So it's gonna be like this. Now the same with also with the gravitational force in the universe. Okay, you have to equate this also in the centripetal force. Why? Because this is referring to the Bohr model, just like the universe. You remember again the Bohr model? BOHR discovered by Mr. Bohr. Okay, for example, energy level 1 and is equals to 1. Energy level 2 and is equals to 2. Energy level n is equals to 3 or something like that. Okay, so we have the orbit also. Okay, remember that one, right? And the nucleus. The center is the proton and the neutron. And then in the outermost shell in the orbit, revolving is the electron. Because the electron is the lightest particle, something like that. Okay, then you have also to equate this electric force equal to the centripetal force. Because this is also circulatory in motion, or a little circular. Guys, put that in your brain cells. If it is circular motion, or the round or elliptical a little bit, okay, you should use always centripetal force in your derivation. You get the point? Use always centripetal force because it is directed toward, not outward, or else you cannot compute for the thing you wanted to because it's outside. Okay, so it should be toward the nucleus, or it should be toward the sun. Okay, it would be meaningless if you're trying to compute in the outer space, in the, it's not like that, okay? So we are not dealing with centrifugal force, always centripetal force, okay? Now, electric force, I just say capital F subscript capital E, something like that, to designate only, okay, so F is equals to E is equals to Kc, conception, okay, times a capital Q, small q, R squared. Since most of the times, guys, we are dealing here with electrons, so we can automatically say that this is gonna be Q squared na. Okay? Ni-focus na sa electrons in here. Okay, not the proton. Because as we always mention, the electrons are always traveling, moving. It's not the proton. Okay, it's always the electrons being transferred. It's being accepted. Okay, from substance to substance, metals to metals, to produce electricity or electrical energy so that we have light, such like this in my room. Okay, so that's the science behind why we produce light. We can see things clearly around us. Okay, so that's gonna be the purpose for that, and it's very related to the photon, the particles, okay, emitted by the light. Okay, something like that. And we have the centripetal force also. Again, mv squared is equal to over r. So ganun lang siya, equate. Okay, this is our equation 1, or equation 2, ganon. Okay, try to take a look. Take a look at me now, cause there's just an empty space. Ganon. Okay, so I say Kc, okay, Q squared na siya. Okay, over R squared is equal to mv squared over R. Again, check the commonalities or the similar quantities. Okay, the R cancels R here and the R here again. Okay, now it would become crisscross multiplication in algebra. The same as we did in the gravitational force. Okay, like that. Okay, so crisscross multiplication. So mv squared, mv squared is times R. okay, is equals to Kc Q squared. Ganon. Check carefully ha, because I am very fast in my discussion. Maybe I missed something. Okay, and then object me and correct me if, oh, Sotero is wrong, something like that. Okay, and I will issue error statement in the description of my YT channel or in this particular vlogging or streaming, something like that. Okay, so this is gonna be like this. Okay, this is not yet simplified, guys. Okay, mv squared r times kc times q squared. Okay, this q again. Okay, let's make this clear. This is electric charge. Okay, I will write again so that we can substitute this in the problem solving all the time. Okay, 1.602 times 10 to the negative 19. Okay, column. Okay, it's gonna be like that. It does make sense, guys, because if you square this one, it will cancel the denominator of the Kc. You get the point? That's why it helps us to simplify. Marukay siya, no, ang equation. Okay, so it's gonna be like that. And now we are trying to compute for this manner the velocity, or it depends what quantity you are trying to compute. But in here, we are trying to look for the velocity, the angular velocity here. Okay, so v squared, unsa may nisamok or nilubog. Okay, ang nilubog, ang mass and the radius beside the velocity. Then cancels that by dividing that quantities so that it will be eliminated in your equation. Okay, so over mr, other also over mr. So cancels out. So velocity squared is equal to, okay, actually this is angular velocity. Okay, velocity squared is equals to mr, okay, like that, kcq squared over mr. Wow, like this. V squared is equals to Kc times Q raised to the power 2. Oh, gonna this one. So this is not yet simplified. We need to compute for the V. So this is gonna be velocity, angular velocity is the square root of Kc electric charge raised to the power 2 mass times the radius or the distance. Okay. Actually, the radius will be the distance, but actually, supposedly it should be the d, right? But anyhow, we will not question the scientists before because they are only reflecting r. They reflect r in their, in their discussion of their theories. But actually, that is diameter d. But they use r. Sometimes also it confuses the students. Okay? A lot will be confused because normally, we are introduced since elementary level that r is a radius. And then eventually, when you go to college in this particular topic, r will become the d. So sometimes also, it adds a little bit of confusion, right? For the consistency of the declaration of the variable or the letters to be used. Okay, but anyhow, as long as we are in this specific topic, let's just treat that this is the distance. Okay, so we have no choice. I cannot alter. Okay, I cannot alter the r. Okay, just to replace with d because it's also very d also stands for distance. Okay, and then problem is also stands for diameter. So again, confusion na sad siya. Okay, so all you have to do is to stick with the particular topic na siya, and then later mag-correlate ka o diha pa. Okay, something like that. So ganon, guys. Again, the same with the gravitational force. Use the angular velocity. Oh my gosh. Angular velocity, okay. Angular velocity is equal to 2 pi r over t. Okay, substitute in here, guys. So, we should remember that we need to substitute the value of the angular velocity not in the square root equation, because square root is complicated. We go to the exponential. V squared is equals to KCQ squared over MR because it's easy to square the quantities rather than to square root. You get the point? Okay, so V squared, so let's say 2 pi R over P raised to the power 2 is equals to KCQ squared over MR. Again, 4 pi squared R squared, okay, like that, over T. Ato na na siyang i-change ang capital T diretso. Okay, because again, ang ending capital T good siya. So capital T raised to the power 2 is equals to, as long that is time, right? Like that. So KC Q squared over MR. Ganon. Okay, like that. Okay, solve for the value of T, right? Because it's in this equation class, the only solo flight quantity is the capital T. The other quantities involving coefficients and the sides. So, daghang kang mulubog jud daghang kaayo. So, we need to have the single T lang siya. Okay, so solve for the T. So, T squared, cross multiplication again. If you see the equal sign, okay, at the center. So T squared is equals to KC Q squared is equals to 4 pi squared, my goodness, R cube mass. Okay, it's in here. And then, ang ending, divide with the coefficients because nilubog na po siya tupad sa capital T squared. Okay, divided by KCQ squared, sorry. Na ano ang dila. QCQ squared, okay? And then this one, KCQ squared. Okay, ganun siya. Okay? So our final formula will be T squared over 4 pi squared R cube M over KC chararat Q squared. La, ganon. Okay, this one. This is our formula. Okay, T squared is equal to 4 pi raised to the power 2 times R cubed times M over KC Q squared. Now, it's very easy now to look for the problem solving. For example, calculate the mass of the, electrons or the mass of the protons. But usually, this is not being asked the mass because since we know the mass of electrons and protons already standard. Okay, during my introductory part, I already mentioned the masses of these electrons and protons, right? So normally, it will ask the distance or either the time. Okay? Something like that. Because, this time here is not the orbital. Okay? Orbital, not like in the universe na one revolution in 1 year. It's not like that. So this is not constant. Okay? So you have to find this one. And then usually, there's one given for this. Okay, try to picture out the formula and visualized and analyze the relevance of the constants. In here, T squared is equal to 4 pi squared R cubed times M over KCQ squared. Now, okay, the pi is equal to 3.1416. Okay, no problem. Okay, so the mass is also given. It could either be an electron and a proton because the title of this vlogging is electric force between electrons and protons. So normally, we take note its masses already as standard. So our radius, we don't know. Okay? And then the Kc is I mentioned already here, constant. And the Q also is the electric charge. And then bingo, only the T and R in the problem. So normally, one given only. Okay, one given or one data we can solve now for either T or for either R. Okay, but it depends also in the problem. It will be rumbled sometimes also. We don't know. Okay, but I'm telling you, most of the times it's gonna be like that because there's a lot of constants in this equation. Okay, so the constants will help a lot to simplify our formula and our equation. So that's the rule of constants, to make it easy, okay, so that we can easily achieve the desired answer and we can simplify our equation and formula, something like that. So that's the purpose of constants also. Okay, that's the relevance of constants. Okay, so ganun siya. So muna siya per me. So it depends on the problem. So if it talks about planets, suns, ganun siya, asteroids, comets, ganun. So apply the other one ha, the gravitational force. Okay, but it talks about subatomic particles, electrons, protons, neutrons. Apply this one also because this is intended for subatomic particles. Just like that, the applicability of the formulas and equations, though it has common theories and similarities how we derive it. Okay? Because we always use the centripetal force as our basis in our derivation. Okay? So, thank you so much for listening for this short vlog and live streaming for electric force between electrons and protons computation. If you like this video, then you can you can comment down below in the comment section. Again, you can click the notification bell for some newest updates of I Am a Senior Eternal Voice. And then, if you are not subscribing at my YT channel, then you can subscribe. You may subscribe or you may not. You have the full freedom to do it. But if you like, then go. Thank you so much. Bye-bye, everybody. God bless. See you later.